So Alabama's next opponent in basketball is McNeese State. And for those of you that have been living under a rock, McNeese State is coached by Will Wade. And if that name is familiar to you, it is because Will Wade is the former coach of LSU. And he was the coach at LSU when Alabama won the SEC title championship game in 2021. He's a very good coach. There's never been, question about that. He followed Shaka Smart at VCU and then, had success at LSU and was fired immediately following an FBI investigation in which he was, commented of having a strong-ass offer, right? So if you ever hear or see tweets about a strong-ass offer, that was Will Wade. He was caught on a wiretap offering players money, which in today's day and age is super common with NIL, but obviously this was pre-NIL, so was against the rules. And he gets a show cause, or he gets a reprimanded, let's say, and McNeese ends up hiring him. I believe his probation is off maybe this year. But either way, point being, he's the head coach at McNeese State. He has done a really good job at McNeese. Last season, they were a, kind of March Madness darling. They were somebody that a lot of people expected to have that 5-12 upset that happens most years. They were a 12 seed playing Gonzaga. Gonzaga ends up winning that game, and it ends up not happening. But McNeese, what Wade was able to do last season with McNeese was absolutely incredible, right? He does bring in. He is a great recruiter, right? And because of how he is able to coach, he is somebody that can bring in elite talent, and he's done that again this year. He brought over Brandon Murray, formerly of LSU. Actually, he spent a year at Ole Miss last season, but he came back to McNeese to play for Wade after starting a couple of games last season. Right, he's somebody that really knows how to get the most out of his players. So when we talk about McNeese, that's the big thing that you need to look at is, yes, all the FBI stuff, all of the recruiting stuff with Will Wade is really funny, but he is a very good basketball coach, right? At the end of the day, he knows basketball. I fully expect him to get a high major job this cycle. There were a lot of comments that he wasn't going to leave McNeese after just 1 year. I expect him to get an offer and accept a job this cycle, but he's that kind of coach. He will be at a high major school very, very soon. Some schools, I'm sure, will want to stay away because of all of the recruiting stuff and all the things that happened prior, but he will get a top job, and for good reason, right? He's a very good basketball coach. So in the game that mattered, I guess, that McNeese has played, they've played one game against a team that you've heard of and one team against a team which you have not. The team you've heard of is South Dakota State, and the team you haven't is Biblical Studies. South Dakota State, they end up losing that game 80-73. That's the game which I'll kind of talk a little bit about who played a lot in that game and what style in which they played. When you look at Biblical Studies, a couple of things. One, that's I hate to say just a team on their schedule, just a team kind of to fill a void on the schedule. They're not an FBS team. They're not a Division I team, and they're also not ranked in KenPom. So like all the numbers which we'll talk about from a KenPom perspective are not taken into consideration when a team plays a non-Division I team. So just consider that when we do talk about the numbers. They may be slightly skewed as to having just a one-game sample size, but all games this early are going to have that, right? So just consider that when you're looking at this. So the guys that played a lot in that game were they have a lot of seniors, and currently their lineup, when you look at who plays on this team, it is 5 seniors and 4 juniors. So this is a very experienced basketball team. He is somebody that has done a good job bringing in transfers either last offseason that have stayed or this offseason in the sense of Brandon Murray and some others. And Will Wade, like I said, does a good job of getting the most out of his players. So you had 5 guys that played more than 20 minutes. It was your starters. And you get 15 points out of Garcia, Um, 11 points out of Shamont, 18 points out of Breed, and Brandon Murray, again, the SEC transfer, only ends up having 8, right? He had a pretty slow game, went 0 for 3 from deep, had a couple of steals. But this is a team that I fully expect that is going to, if Alabama does not play their best, they are going to be able to beat you, right? That's what we talked about with Arkansas State. That's what we're going to talk about with McNeese, right? I think that if Alabama plays to their potential and looks at the Arkansas State game as, hey, we did not play well. This is what we have to clean up. This is how we have to get better. And this is how we beat McNeese. I think Alabama wins this game and wins this game going away, right? However, if Alabama, has some of the same issues that they had against Arkansas State, they're not moving the ball. They're taking bad shots. They're, not just people talk about Nate Oates' offense wanting to take threes. It's not just about taking threes. It's about taking the most efficient shots. And if it's an open three, it's a super efficient shot. If it's a contested three, it's not, right? If it's a contested three and you could have passed it inside to get a dunk, why'd you take the three, right? It's all about finding the open man, finding the most efficient shot. And that's the thing that Alabama's going to have to do in this game. Again, because if you do not play efficient basketball, if you do not play knowing, hey, this is what I need to do, this is how I need to do it to the best of my ability, then these teams can beat you. That's the whole reason why Nate Oates schedules the way he schedules. He openly will talk about, hey, I schedule very difficult because I don't want to be able to play a bad game and still win, right? I would not call Arkansas State a bad game, right? There were elements of that game which were not good, but there were still moments of that game that were very good, right? Your second chance points, the fight at which you saw, the defense, right? There were points in that game which were good. But Alabama has to do something well to win these games because he is not scheduling cupcake mid-majors, right? This McNeese team last season lost 3 games before the NCAA tournament. Again, they lost 3 games before the NCAA tournament, and so this is not a team which you should assume is going to be an immediate win. Do I think Alabama has a very good chance of winning this game? Absolutely. Will I be picking them to win this game? Absolutely. However, would it absolutely shock me if McNeese came out, shot lights out, Alabama had a poor shooting night, and we lost the game? I don't think it would, right? I would not expect it, and I think that I would give it a less than, 5% likelihood. But, would it be, blow my mind shocking? I don't know that it would, right? McNeese is a very good team. They're a very good mid-major, and I fully expect them to compete for an NCAA tournament bid and compete to try to win a game in the NCAA tournament as they potentially should have done last season, right? That is the type of team and coach that Will Wade is. I fully expect that. I know they lost against South Dakota State, which was their only legitimate game so far this season, but again, I still think that this is a very good team, and he's done a better job scheduling this season where, he scheduled Alabama and North Texas and Santa Clara and Mississippi State, all of these teams in the KenPom Top 100, whereas last season he had 2 games, I guess, in the KenPom Top 100 against VCU and Louisiana Tech, and they lost one of them. Right? So this is a situation where Will Wade has done a much better job scheduling this season. Again, this is going to be an elite team. I fully expect them to win their conference. I fully expect that Will Wade will do a good job with this team. So let's talk about how they play, because I think that how they play will say impartially why I think that Alabama will win this game. But again, they have to play a good game to do it. So when you look at the KenPom numbers, and again, these are only talking about the South Dakota State game. So we're going to talk about what the numbers are so far, and then we'll talk a little bit about what happened last season. Obviously, last season's team is not this season's team, but I think that you can draw some comparison because some of the numbers seem to line up last season versus this season, right? So the thing that jumps off the page at you is the spots on KenPom where they're green. Right? The spots where they're better than most schools. And the place where they're better than average is getting other teams to commit fouls and not committing them themselves. They do not give up a ton of free throws, right? That is something that this team, by and large, was good at last season and has been good at so far this season. This team does a really good job on turnovers, offensively and defensively. They don't give up the ball a lot, but they do a very good job of taking over the ball, right? Getting steals, getting non-forced turnovers, just getting turnovers altogether. And the last thing is this team typically does a fairly good job at getting pretty efficient shots. In their first game, they did not. I would not consider that an indictment on what this team will be, however, right? I think they had a poor shooting night in that South Dakota State game. By and large, Will Wade is a fairly efficient coach and is looking for the efficient shot. Last season, their three-point percentage was 9th in the country. Their offensive and defensive steal percentage was top 10 in the country. Their turnover percentage was 10th in the country. Like, this was a very good defensive team last season, and this is what Will Wade is going to try to coach to. He's going to try to coach to have his guys cause havoc on the defensive end, and it's going to be a slower game than what Alabama, or he's going to try to have it be a slower game than what Alabama wants, right? He is going to have his defense get into our guys, try to get steals, and he is going to have, I believe, the tempo of this game be a little slower. Last season, they were bottom 275. They were 277 and like 345 from a defensive perspective. They really grinded teams to a halt on the defensive end. Obviously, Alabama is going to try to keep the pace of this game up. I think that if Alabama can keep the pace of this game up and do it without committing turnovers, I think Alabama can have a lot of success in this game. The other place where I think Alabama has a ton of success is on the rebounding standpoint. McNeese was not a great rebounding team last season. They were not a good rebounding team at the beginning of this game, the beginning of this season so far. I think that Alabama can have a lot of success on the boards, and I think that goes into McNeese has not done a very good job running teams off the three-point line, right? Last season, they gave up next to last in the country in number of three-point attempts, right? This is a game where it would not shock me if McNeese doesn't do a great job running Alabama off the three-point line. So this can kind of be twofold. I could definitely see this turning into a Wake Forest game where Alabama shoots a ton of threes and the right guys are taking the shots and the right guys are making them, and Alabama wins this game by a good bit, and it's kind of a blowout in Tuscaloosa. I could see that happening. I could also see that Alabama, McNeese doesn't do a great job running us off the line, but does a decent job not letting the shooters we want to get the shots. Now, granted, this team is a very good shooting team, so Alabama at one time can have a lot of guys that are great shooters on the court at one time. But I'm looking at it similar to like wanting to have, when Arizona let Grant Nelson take a ton of threes. I think that there are moments where it would not shock me if McNeese tries to almost force who's taking the shot, not that we're taking the shot, right? I think that's going to have to be McNeese's key to this game because, again, they have not historically, under Will Wade, have not been a good team at running people off the three-point line. Alabama also, when Will Wade was at LSU, Alabama set their three-point record in the Maravich Center because they just lit it up from deep, right? He didn't do a great job running Alabama off the three-point line there, right? So this is a situation where if Will Wade does not run Alabama off the three-point line, like he has historically not done very well at, this game could get ugly, especially if Alabama is making shots. And I would not bet that Alabama is going to go 19% in back-to-back games, right? I do not think that is a winning formula if you're hoping that Alabama just shoots very poorly in back-to-back games, because I really don't expect that this team will shoot that poorly. Again, the shooters that were taking the shots in the last game with Reitzel and Sears are who you want taking them. And I just don't think that Sears is missing 5 and Reitzel's missing 8 shots from deep. I just don't expect that to happen a second time. And so, like I said, that's the big keys for me. The other thing in this one as well is for the third straight game, Alabama's going to have a massive size advantage. In the starting lineup, McNeese has 6'3", 6'3", 6'5", 6'6", 6'9". And then their biggest guy is 6'9", 215. And then coming off the bench, they have a 6'8", 225. This is not a very large team, right? Cliff Amore, Grant Nelson, Latrell Wright, Jaron Stevenson, Aiden Sherrill, they're all going to have size on everyone on this court, right? So I fully expect that it would not surprise me if Alabama tries to do, get the ball down low to some guys that potentially can have some success. And then when they crash in on the forwards, you try to kick out for open threes. Obviously Alabama's kind of game plan from the word go, but I just don't think that one-on-one McNeese has the guys to be able to defend Alabama, right? You are going to need to have some decent ball handling from your forwards in this game, because I do think that sometimes when you have smaller forwards, like your 6'9", your 6'8", going up against a guy like Cliff Amore or Grant Nelson, they can get up under them sometimes and force some turnovers. So you are going to need to just watch that and see how they are defending, because this is a situation where I think that if McNeese is going to have some success, they could potentially use some athleticism and speed to cause issues with Alabama's forwards. But again, I personally think that Alabama has a lot of success in this game. I don't think that Will Wade's going to do a good job running us off the three-point line. I'm going off of history here. He has not historically done a great job running us off the three-point line when he's faced Nate Oates. Last season, they were next to last in the entire country at number of three-point shots attempted by their opposing teams. This is just not a great team at running people off the three-point line, even as good as they are on defense. And I think that Alabama, because of our ability to actually, this is the best team so far under Nate Oates in having turnovers. Alabama has done a pretty good job at not turning the ball over. I think that Alabama is able to have Mark Sears, Aiden Holloway, LeBaron Philon, find open guys, and I think that Alabama shooters kind of go off in this game, and I expect a pretty big win, honestly. I do think that Alabama breaks the century mark. I think that the 88 points of the Arkansas State game, I think, was more of a situation where Alabama shot so poorly from deep and from the free throw line that they didn't cross it, but I fully expect them to cross it in this game. I would look at this game to be somewhere around like maybe 105 to 78, maybe. I do think that Will Wade's good enough to keep it, somewhat close for the first half, but I do think that Alabama's skill can win this game and can win this game going away. If this was a blowout, I don't know that it truly shocks me. If Alabama just comes out and lights it up from deep, I don't know that truly shocks me. Again, I don't know that it truly shocks me if McNeese keeps this a super close game, right? I think that anything could happen, but I think that it's a much higher likelihood that Alabama wins this game and wins this game going away, just due to how Will Wade likes to defend and what he's done historically in his time at LSU as well as at McNeese. So that's what my thoughts are on this game. I think that this is going to be a very good game in Coleman Coliseum. I'm fully expecting there to be some FBI jackets and things kind of as tribute to Fluff and tribute to all of the investigations of past. But thank you so much, everyone, for watching. I really appreciate it. Sorry for the delayed upload. Like I said, had some car troubles, and so, got this out as quickly as I could. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching, and I will catch you in the next episode. Peace.